Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another Sims info/thoughts video. So we got even more Sim Guru Q&A, including the topics of superheroes, making an impact on the world around you, sleepovers, and other cool stuff. So let's get right into this. First off, Mitsurai asks, so any ideas what the meeting is all about? The one that you're about to attend. Hashtag being slick. And Sim Guru Grant says, yes, we're talking about improving the game for new players, and as someone who already has the game, you might ask, why? I already have the game. But if more people show up and have a good time, that means we can keep supporting the game for everyone. And yeah, that's kind of interesting because, well, I'm not really sure what they could do to improve the game for new players. They just put in that tutorial with the November update. I actually still need to see if I can maybe play through that just to see what it's like. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just my perspective since I've been playing The Sims since The Sims 1, so I'm not really the best person to turn to, I guess, for that sort of thing. But if they can come up with a way to make it easier to get into The Sims 4 and keep new players engaged, then of course that would mean good things for The Sims, because then more people are actively playing the game, and then there'll be more sales and more reason to keep The Sims going for years and years and decades, hopefully, to come. Next up, Passy Simmer asks Simguru Graham, I know you don't work on stuff packs anymore, but how about a stuff pack with the theme of sleepovers? It would be for all age groups, have new bed interactions and so on, and special things and cool new features like dreaming. And Graham says, I don't think it's out of the question. I've heard things along those lines discussed as potential things we could do in the future. No promises though. And to add on to that, Passy Summer also says, thanks though, bed animations like chilling and watching TV would be neat in an update. Another thing is that it feels like you all do less with multitasking nowadays. I hope this changes. And I agree, why can't our Sims watch TV while on the bed like they could in previous games? It feels like, since The Sims 2, kind of like how I mentioned with babies in the previous video, the beds get worse with each Sims game. I don't know why that is. I guess it's just one of those things that ends up being a lesser of a priority when you're rushing the base game, but yeah. I really hope that the beds can be updated in the future to also have cuddling and some other interactions too. But yeah, sleepovers would be really interesting, and I'm glad that they're at least considering that to be a possibility. So yeah, sleepovers, I feel like, are just one of those things that you do as a child at some point in your life. And I think it would just be really fun to have, maybe as some sort of special event. I know there is a sleepover mod by Brit Pinky Sims. I'm not sure if that's been updated for Get Famous since that update broke so many mods, but maybe they could do it similar to that mod, but also incorporate some of the features from Little Miss Sam's mods, because there's ones where you can make it so that you can tell your guests to go to bed, because I can imagine that being a really big problem if they just literally put in a sleepover event, because then, yeah, since you're not controlling the guests, they'll just do whatever, and they'll just watch TV all throughout the night, while your actual playable Sims are just sleeping, and it's not really a true sleepover. Yeah, I can just imagine that happening. It'd be very awkward. So yeah, I think it would be good if then they could also put in some sort of function to assign some sort of bedtime for the guests, so it actually works as what we would expect it to. Because I know I've done that interaction a few times before where it's just like, invite to stay the night in The Sims 4, and then they don't really go to bed at all. So yeah, it is a little bit weird when that happens. Next we have a question from Ariana. Do you guys think you'll add more interactive jobs in the future, such as interior designer, like in The Sims 3? And Grant says, careers are always very popular, intuitive, and fun to make. It's also one of the top script mods you guys craft. So I think it's good to assume we'll generally be looking to make careers in some way as we move forward. And yeah, that makes sense to me. It seems like they are really trying to make the careers more interactive every time they add some, because ever since City Living, they've been doing more of those careers where you have the choice of going to the rabbit hole for the day or actually being given tasks that you can do at home or around the world. And I think that's a pretty good setup. And even with the style influencer career that they just added through that November update, it also works that same way. But I do think, yeah, it's also good to have some full-on active careers, as what they're called, like what we got with Get to Work, and also the acting career that we got with Get Famous. Because with careers like acting or being a detective, I think it does make more sense to have those sorts of active careers where you can really be involved, and then there's like more room for new gameplay when you have those new locations that you need to go to if you choose to follow your Sims to work. Because let's say if we had the acting career as a City Living sort of career, then I think it would have been way less exciting, because then, well, we'd probably still be able to do some of those interactions like performing acting scenes with strangers in the street, but yeah, you wouldn't have like the full-on studio where you go and do all of those scenes and everything. So yeah, I'm glad acting ended up getting the active career treatment. CC. asks, is a dynamic world a possibility in The Sims 4, like certain actions having an impact on the worlds? And Grant says, yes, this is possible. And yeah, I'm really glad to hear this, because I really do like having that sort of gameplay where your actions can have lasting consequences within The Sims. And I feel like having the reputation system with Get Famous is a pretty good step in the right direction. But what we're really talking about here is an impact on the world itself, not just The Sims. So yeah, that's definitely something I'd love to see. I thought it was a pretty interesting idea with Into the Future to have that ability to affect the future, but I didn't like how it was strictly connected to specific opportunities with the opportunity system that would activate the past, or sorry, not the past, the utopian future or the dystopian future. I'd like it to be not like completely subtle, but have it just be like more than just being limited to those opportunities. Kind of like how with Get Famous, you have more ways to get famous instead of it just being like, oh, woohoo with the sim, or just make your way up within one or two very specific careers. But also, I don't think impacting the world should just be limited to a sci-fi thing that doesn't necessarily appeal to everyone. I'm not really sure what CC. Had in mind when asking that question. Maybe it was just about having an Into the Future sort of remake, but I'd also like to see more realistic aspects to impacting the world. Like, one idea that I've really been pushing for was like an off-the-grid / environmentally friendly sort of game pack. What if, like, if your Sims are just really bad at cleaning up for themselves and just leave trash everywhere in public spaces, then it'll actually have a bit of a long-term effect where community spots will actually continue to look really littered. Maybe the ground can start looking a bit more brown at certain points. I don't know. It's just a rough idea, but yeah, I think there should be realistic ways to affect the world too, and not have it purely be sort of these niche fantasy sort of ideas that only appeal to certain people. But speaking of fantasy niche ideas that would only appeal to certain people, Spook Chris asks, make a superhero pack. And Grant says the challenge with this is that our game is not designed around superheroes doing superhero stuff, like epic fights, saving the world, knocking down buildings. Costumes, layers, team building, awesome, we can do that. But the big cinematic fights, nah, not our game. And, well, I mean, I call myself the Iron Seagull on the internet. Of course I'm gonna want a superhero pack. But at the same time, yeah, I do understand what Grant is saying here. The Sims is not really built with huge epic fight scenes like something out of Man of Steel. Like, yeah, I can't imagine entire houses and skyscrapers being destroyed by heat vision and all that sort of stuff. But I think they could still do smaller scale sort of fights. Like, look at what they did with the vampiric sparring in Vampires. I think that was pretty good. Just add some more variety to those sorts of animations where you do have those epic fights and not only just the dust cloud stuff from the base game. And I think that would still be pretty convincing. I also think a superhero pack would be a very good opportunity to bring back the martial arts skill from The Sims 3. Like, what about the superheroes like Batman and the Green Arrow and Black Widow, who don't really have superpowers but are just extraordinary when it comes to weaponry and martial arts? So those sorts of superheroes could be represented as well, not just beings like Superman who can fly and shoot lasers out of their eyes and that sort of thing. And being able to assemble your own superhero team like the Justice League or the Avengers, I think could be really fun too. It'd be kind of similar to clubs and get together, but I'd enjoy these more. And then you could summon your squad whenever there's like a crime going down, or if you're playing as a villain, because I would also have there be the option to be a villain too, not just be the superhero. So if there's some situation going on that's opposing yours out in the world, then yeah, you could call up your squad and have them just tackle the situation together, whether it's saving Sims from fires or directly fighting your antagonists. Yeah, I think that could be potentially a very fun pack if done right. I definitely would have it be a game pack though. Even as a huge superhero fan, and I know superheroes are still pretty popular, I don't know if that really justifies making it an entire expansion pack around just superheroes. So yeah, I'd be perfectly fine with having this one game pack that goes really in depth on the concept of what it's like to live as a superhero or supervillain. The next subject is about retail, as Tulin asks, Get Famous is really great, and there's a lot to do, but can you guys seriously address retail? I love this feature, but it's so inconvenient. Any chance the way Sims check out can change? And Graham says, we aren't planning any core changes to how checking Sims out in retail stores works. Are you experiencing problems with it, or simply wish there was a standard ring up type option on the register? And Tulin says, no, I'm not experiencing any glaring issues, but the employees seem to take forever to ring up customers, or basically do the task I assigned for them to do. And yeah, I agree. Checking out Sims is a bit of a pain. It takes quite a while, and then I find whenever I try running these retail stores, I check one Sim out and then another one is already like, it just like reached their tolerance level of waiting, and then they just like, forget it, I'm not buying this. And it does get a little bit frustrating, and I always did find it a little bit weird from the beginning that they just threw out the cash registers in favor of doing this tablet thing. Maybe it makes sense if you're running a really small store. It's like, okay, it doesn't need a tablet, whatever. But say if you're trying to make a grocery store, it doesn't really make sense to have that. So yeah, that's kind of too bad that we don't have at least the option of having a cash register. And actually, now that I think about it, I guess it would have been cool if there was a self-checkout register too, like what you can see at grocery stores nowadays. They're kind of like throwing out the whole like hiring more people to run actual cash registers in favor of doing the self-checkout thing. But still, I think in the case of The Sims, it'd be good to have the option of it. I don't think it's too likely that we'll get any actual changes to the retail system though, unless they maybe do some sort of pack where it makes sense to upgrade the retail feature. I could have sworn I remember Simgru Grant saying quite a while ago that he expressed interest in actually doing stuff to the retail system, so who knows, but I'm not getting my hopes up. I still think it's not really too likely that they'll go back and add more stuff to retail, which already came out like 3 years ago. And yeah, you could say, oh, but they already upgraded the retail system because they did that with Dine Out because of the star rating system and the better feeling of progression and that sort of stuff, but that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the stuff that is very specific to running a retail store and the tasks involved with that. So yeah, that stuff they haven't really touched since the release of Get to Work. And then with build mode, Simple Fabio asks, we need an update where we can build until the end of the lot, like in The Sims 3. And Graham says, if you're talking about building a wall to the edge of the lot, I don't believe that was possible in Sims 3 either. The problem being that walls have depth, and thus they'd actually extend beyond the edge of the lot if we let them be built all the way to the edge. And Simple Fabio actually clarifies that they meant fences, not the walls. And I'm not really a huge expert on build mode, but I think it would be really nice if we could at least build fences to the edge of the lot. I don't really see why that would not be possible, but I would guess if we can't do that right now, there's probably a good reason for it. The next question comes from Larry Trin, and she says, hi Simguru Graham, I was wondering if someday the other TS4 challenges will be fully available to anyone who wants to do it without being limited. I really wanted to do the Jasmine challenges, and what bothers me the most is seeing the challenge objects blocked. And Graham says there aren't any concrete plans around returning challenges, but I agree it'd be nice for us to find a way to provide more of that content again. In the meantime, feel free to use commands at your disposal to unlock and enjoy those objects. Don't think of it as cheating. And, well, I've never really been a fan of these challenges being in the game in the first place, but I think it is fair to ask for a way to still be able to get those exclusive objects a little more easily. Though one thing I will bring up is that if you own Jungle Adventure, it is possible for those sugar skulls to pop up in the marketplace. I've seen that happen, so for the Day of the Dead stuff, that's one alternative. Also, I have seen the grow fruit being sold at the ranger station in Granite Falls with Outdoor Retreat, but the thing is, you need to have those packs in order to have those options. So I think there should be a way to redo these challenges if you only own the base game and nothing else. And I was thinking about something along the lines of the spirit board in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, because with that, it's like you have all these spirits that can come up, and then you can choose for which one to go for, and then you have one shot at beating the spirit, and if you lose, then the spirit will go away, and then eventually another spirit will appear in its place. So maybe it could be something like that, because I don't think you should just be able to instantly redo a challenge if you fail. Like, it's supposed to be a challenge, so I think there should be maybe a little bit of a cooldown before you can do the challenge again. Not a long time or anything. Like, I'm not saying, oh, you have to wait until 6 months from now in real time in order to do it again. Like, no, nothing like that. But maybe a day or two, you wouldn't be able to do the challenge again. But then, yeah, the cooldown would expire and then you could do it. And in that time, you could still do other challenges. Like, you could have 2 or 3 appear on a sort of challenge board at a time. And with the spirit board in Smash Ultimate, there are some items that you can get to really help shuffle the board in your favor, and one of those items is Rematch, where you just use it and then it'll instantly bring up the last spirit that you fought and lost. So maybe there could be some way of getting an item so that you could instantly redo a challenge if you want to, but it wouldn't be something that you could just very easily come across. And with this next question, we're going back to the subject of beds. So Bluebird23 says, a very random question. Sorry if it's been asked before, but would it ever be a consideration to bring back the messy beds? I don't know why, but I loved going around and making all the beds in the morning in TS3. It was such a small yet interesting action. And Graham responds by saying, seems fairly unlikely that we'd go back and add that now, if I'm being perfectly honest. Don't think it's a bad idea, just not sure where we'd realistically squeeze it in over other things. And I guess I can kind of see where Bluebird23 is coming from, because yeah, there's a bit more realism when you have the messy beds, but honestly, I don't really miss that so much. because my Sims would pretty much always have really messy beds because I just wouldn't bother. Just have them get up and do whatever it is they need to do first, like shower or eat breakfast. So I don't really think about it that much. And the last question relates to the earbuds from Fitness Stuff. So Golden Buffy asks, I know mum's the word, but I was just thinking, is there any way possible that you guys could bring back the option to listen to a skill via earbuds and gain a skill, similar to how we can in Sims 3? And Graham says, I'd rate it as fairly unlikely that we go back and add new functionality to that object. So yeah, I guess that's kind of like with the retail functions in that sense, that they're probably not going to go back to a feature of an existing pack and change it up more. So yeah, that's too bad. I really like listening to those tabcasts in The Sims 3 and building skills at the same time. There are some instances where you can build more than one skill at the same time. Every time I have my Sims go to the gym, and if there's a treadmill near a TV, then I have them run the treadmill to gain fitness skill, and then at the same time have them watch the cooking channel, so they are building both fitness and cooking at the same time. So it would be nice if we could do more of that. And if the earbuds did have that tabcast functionality, then I think Fitness Stuff would suddenly be viewed by the community in a much more positive light, because I know I have the unpopular opinion of actually really liking this stuff pack a lot, and then I just love this stuff pack even more if we had that function. It'd be a lot easier to fit that pack into everyday gameplay. And that wraps up another Sims info/thoughts video, so feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on all of the questions that we went over. And be sure to leave a like or a comment or even subscribe, because it lets me know that you like my channel, my videos, and it helps you keep up to date more easily with my latest content from The Sims, Sonic the Hedgehog, and more. So I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching!